Hi, Shamara. Thanks for your patience. I don't usually have Stacy right before you, and I did today, but she was a little bit, we got a late start because she worked over at work a little bit today. So thank you for your patience. That's why I texted you. I was like, oh, no. So, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I like your earrings. Those are so cute. Are they like the seashell ones?
They're, I don't know what they're made of. I've had them for
Yeah.
so long and
Oh,
they are
they're
just
cute.
cheap. I think they might even just be plastic.
Oh, I like them. They're cute. They look similar to ones I've seen, like, at the beach and stuff that they make out of the inside of the clamshells because they're like, they've got that shine to them, which is really neat.
Yeah. Like, if you saw them close, you would not be that excited.
Oh,
They just wear a pop of color, have on like a jean.
yeah. Oh, I think that works great though. Like sometimes just like, wearing all black and then you have like a bright scarf or something can be really fun. So yeah, that little pop of color for just the fun and sparkle. Love it. So last week I guess it worked out that because you were like, "Oh, I'm wiped anyway." So I'm glad that it all worked out. I felt so bad. But
Um,
sometimes I think it's good to have a week off too and then just like kind of come in fresh. So
I still
tell
did my
me.
homework. I took the time
Oh,
and
good.
I kind of just did some like uh you left me I guess some of the monologues and then
Yes.
I just played around with voice recording. So
Oh,
I
awesome.
did
How
do homework.
fun.
I used the time.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that you were using that time to practice and work on some of the things we talked about. I love that. That's awesome. So you said that you were working on voice recording. So did you record yourself and then listen back to what you had done? Oh, cool. So tell me a little bit more about that experience, hearing yourself back and, was what you were hearing matching up with what you expected to hear or what you thought that you were doing?
Yeah, I think that I think I'm pretty, how do I say, realistic about
Mm.
my abilities. Um every once in a while I would do I feel like I can see that I'm not consistently good.
Mm.
Every once in a while, I think that I would do like an okay one, and then I'd be like awful. So I
Oh.
feel like, yeah, I think it's kind of good to do the recordings, just
Mm.
to. Um, I also like, the concept of trying it in all these different ways, and then listening back and seeing which way
Yeah.
works the best for a particular um, set of text. So I don't know. I thought I liked doing it. I thought it was fun. It is.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like you explored a few different approaches, and it doesn't sound to me like it was bad. It sounds more like maybe it wasn't as consistent as you had hoped it to be. So maybe like one phrase would just be spot on, and then the next one you'd feel like, that really didn't land. That didn't connect like I hoped it would. And that inconsistency can be pretty disappointing. But what's so great then is you have these like nuggets of gold in there that you're like, ooh, that was a really good phrase right there. Like that really was impactful. And so, if you were in a recording session, that kind of thing happens all the time where you go in thinking you've prepared and then they say, oh, let's try it like this. And it's totally different than anything you prepared for. And you go, oh. And so you have to play around with it. And sometimes they'll stop you and they'll say, okay, I really loved this part, but can we work on just this one phrase? And they'll have you say it 25 different ways. Sometimes you're like, most of it is solid, and you'll be like, man, I just worked on this one paragraph for like 3 hours. And it's okay. That happens all the time. And I mean, they're paying you for the time, so who cares, you know?
Yeah. I just think, practice is practice, right? You're always
Mhm.
gonna, find things
Absolutely.
you like and you don't like and things. I'm more
Yeah.
like concerned. I feel like at this point I'm kind of like a one trick pony. Like I don't have a
Mm.
lot of variation in like what I can do, and
Mm.
I'm assuming that comes with time and practice and
Yeah.
trying different things. But I'm like, or maybe it's just that my voice is like distinct and only works in one way, right? Like I don't,
Mm,
is Morgan Freeman going to try to be a child in a kid's
fair.
uh cartoon? No.
Yeah.
His voice does something spectacular, and
Hmm.
um
Very well.
he
I
does
mean,
it
he's
very
the
well. And if
best at what he
they
does,
know if you
right?
the God voice, then
Yeah.
you want to call him. So like
Hmm.
maybe I'm just not a character actor, or maybe but I mean, or I just don't know how to do it yet. So I'm trying to figure it
Sure.
out. I'm figuring it out.
Well, I would say so. Meisner, who is our number one film method acting person, basically, um, he defines acting as living truthfully under imaginary circumstances. That's how he describes it. And I always see that as the first step in becoming a great actor is going, can I learn who I am and really embrace the truth and authenticity of who I am and put myself into the character's shoes? I think that's the very first step. And then becoming a great character actor is kind of like frosting on the cake. So that cake is that core, right? That living truthfully under imaginary circumstances. The characterization is things like, if I was a stage actor, changing my walk, how I stand, my facial expressions. Maybe they have a tick, like they adjust their glasses a lot, or they have a stutter, right? Those are defining characteristics of that character. And in voice acting, it could be things like this person has a slower speech pattern. This person has a squeaky kind of voice. This person has this particular dialect. This person has mm, maybe they drift off at the ends of phrases. Like they start with really good diction and it sort of like fades out at the end. So these kind of like patterns or little specific things that are different than your usual, but that are for that character as a unique individual. And I feel like Meryl Streep, I feel like, is a really good example of someone who can play all these very different characters. And if you see her in multiple things, you go, wow, she didn't seem at all like the same person, right? So she's someone that I think of as a really great character actress. Um, it's so interesting because I have a buddy who did a cartoon show recently, and we have some mutual friends. And one of them was like, I totally forget it's him in the show when I watch it because he does such a good job of changing his voice. And then, like, another mutual friend was like, oh, I totally can tell it's him. Like I can just hear it immediately. And so it's funny, but the one friend like was around them a lot with like their theater stuff and, experienced a lot of that. And the other one just kind of knew them in school and life. So it was really interesting for me to hear that. And I was like, I definitely can like tell if I listen for it, like knowing it's them, I definitely can hear their voice, but I definitely think it's different than their usual speaking voice, right? Um, and so I feel like you at this point are doing a really beautiful job of creating characters who are authentic, who are landing really truthfully. We're finding characters that for you are the ones that come a little bit more naturally. We're going to find that certain characters we go, oh, I can play that one just kind of effortlessly. That's easier for me, whereas this would be harder for me. But then I find like my mom also, she's more like a live theater kind of person and does like film projects. And then I do more like voiceover and then like music stuff I really enjoy as well. Um, but it's funny because the types of characters that are easy for me to play are not at all the kind of characters that are easy for her. And the things that I go, oh, that one would be a little harder for me. She's like, oh, I would have so much fun with that character just because we're very different people. And so I think playing to your strengths is never a bad thing. I think it's a great thing to go, I get hired for this kind of job often. So let me devote a lot of time to that because it's easy for me. Why not? I have a friend who they basically are like you said, a one-trick pony. They do one type of character. That's the only thing they do. They're amazing at it. and they get hired all the time. Like they're constantly working and they just do that one thing and they do it very, very well, you know? And so I'm like, I can't fault them for that. They're incredible at that type of character. And so I'm like, good for them, you know? And they've found something that's like, this works for them. They're iconic as that. And I'm just like, great, do that. I get kind of bored and get kind of like itching to do something more challenging. So I like to do more variety. So that's just my personality and what I enjoy. So you'll kind of figure out for yourself what works for you. And I don't think there is anything wrong with that. That being said, if you're going, you know, I really wish I was better at creating those characters that are really different from me. Then let's stretch your acting chops. You know, let's see if we can do more character focused work with you and create characters who are really different from you. We've been doing a lot of work going, okay, let's conquer these different emotions and how do we express these different types of emotions, right? And so, you know, we've been doing that work digging into your natural instincts. So
Right.
maybe now we need to say what happens when you get a character who's nothing like you, that you go, I don't know what it's like to be them. I would never make that choice. I would never say these words, right? In my natural life, this would never happen because I would never make those choices. So, how do you empathetically give voice to a character that you go, I would never make these choices, right? So I think that maybe is a good next step then, a good next direction for you. What do you think?
No, I think that would be good. I think I would like to investigate whether or not I feel like I can learn um, to have more character aspects to my voice, and then make and that way I can make an informed decision.
Yeah, absolutely. All
We're all
right.
about data-driven decisions, and where I right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you were going to think of how you would describe your natural speech patterns, your natural voice, how would you describe it to people? Like with your speed, with your pitch, with your dialect, the tone of your voice, speech patterns that you maybe utilize? Some people have certain words they really gravitate towards, like they say well a lot or so a lot. Maybe they say cool a lot. So, what would you say are those things that identify your voice? That if people hear your voice, they know it's your voice because of these characteristics.
I can tell you that people always tell me that my voice is very I don't know, like more on the soothing side than the piercing
Mm,
side. I don't know if that's true,
I
but
love that.
that's when
I agree
people
with
always
that. Yeah.
say
That's
that.
a good compliment. I love that.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
maybe
I
we
would
need you to do some like guided meditation type things.
may, maybe I've yet to try that. But I that's just usually what people say. Or
Yeah.
they say I'm trying to be sultry or whatever, and I'm like, no,
Mm.
I'm not. I mean, if you knew me, you would know that I'm not trying.
I just am this
No,
fabulous and sultry.
absolutely not. I feel like I told you, like I feel that that is like awkward for me. But
Mm.
that just telling you what people say. I also
Right. The
think that
impression you make.
I think I think me and my sister have a very similar voice. Like we used to be able to, trick my mother. And so when I hear my sister's voice, um, I say that uh, it sounds young, but not like a teenager.
Mm.
So I think we have a like something about it sounds youthful.
Nice.
And then I don't know if I have any actual ticks. I don't
Okay.
know if I say like too much
Yeah.
or I'm sure I do, but I try not to.
I love that. What would you say if you tried to tell somebody the meaning or how we would sound soothing? Like somebody who maybe English isn't their first language and they said, "What is soothing? How would you sound soothing?" What would you say to them?
Um, Perhaps there's not too much dynamics to someone's voice. They're not going extremely high and extremely low. They kind of exist in the middle, primarily. Not that it doesn't happen,
Hmm.
and that maybe less vocal fry
Hmm.
than some people tend to have. Um, Maybe a bit sing-songy to the connection of the words. I've heard people say that about my voice, so my assumption is that that's connected somehow.
Nice. I like that. What about sultry? If you tried to think of someone who sounds sultry to you, how would you describe their voice?
I know what I think sounds sultry, and it is not my voice. I think when I think of sultry, I think like raspy. I
Hmm.
think um, maybe maybe a little southern, maybe a mature sounding voice.
Mm.
I think sometimes deep, like a deeper register than a higher one when it comes to sultry. I think just at a level of sophistication um,
Mm.
that the voice is exuding. So
Nice. All
yeah,
right. So then what about youthful? How would you define a youthful sounding voice?
youthful. I tend to think higher register probably uses a bit more trendy vocabulary. Um, Maybe a few likes thrown in there.
Mhm.
But I think when it comes to when I was thinking of youthful, there's just something about a little bit higher of a register,
Okay.
tonally.
Sure. So looking back through, I was taking notes on what you said in the chat. So for soothing, some things that you were commenting on that I think would apply to your voice would be things like that it flows a little bit more. It's more smooth and connected. We don't have any abrupt changes or exaggerated louds and softs. We don't really go to extremes of the voice. So we don't have things like the vocal fry, right? It's staying more balanced, more in the middle. It's more flowing and connected. Now, with sultry, I could see. So you mentioned a little bit southern, more mature, a little bit deeper, a level of sophistication. I could see someone along with that first description, thinking of more of the smooth connection of the phrases, or I do think that you have a maturity and a groundedness to your sound. I also think that you do have a level of sophistication. You sound like you've got your stuff together, like you're educated, you're a strong woman, you can handle yourself. I see you as a very capable, strong person, and I find that pretty attractive, that confidence. And I think most people would. So I think the sounding very confident and mature, having a flow, having your voice be a little bit richer and have more fullness to it and a little bit of a grounded quality to it. I could see that all being part of that. Now, for youthful, you mentioned a higher register, more trendy vocabulary, maybe throwing some likes in. And I can imagine when you get with your sister, you probably have a lot more fun. It's probably not like when you're at work or you're having to be responsible and pay bills and things. And you grew up with your sister. So you guys had fun together and you've been in each other's lives. And I know that sometimes when I get around people, that I knew earlier in life and that I still know today, some of those more youthful qualities come out of me and I fall back into some of those older patterns. I love visiting my grandparents. I'm like, wow, I can just like go sleep in the guest bedroom and they cook for me and I don't have to worry about anything and my grandpa drives me everywhere. It's great. I just get to relax and be taken care of again and have fun and go to the community pool and go with grandma to an art museum. And it's relaxed and fun. And I don't have to take care of anything when I'm there. So I do think that I fall a bit into those more childlike, youthful patterns. And grandpa will say, do you want a sundae, like an ice cream sundae? Like, let's stop for a milkshake, things like that. And it's just fun. And they like doing that because it changes up their routine too. So I definitely can see how when you get with those kind of people, that youthful quality probably comes out. And I think one of the things I think about with that youthful quality is energy. And I do think that you have an energy to you. Like you seem like a person who has this like drive and energy to you. And I definitely think that comes out. I also think that, by doing this, you're showing that creativity and, that you like exploring new things, learning new things, being expressive. And so I see those things like curiosity, creativity, learning new things. Those are all youthful qualities as well. I also kind of see a faster speech pattern coming across as more youthful sometimes. Whereas I think for the sultry quality, I usually think of a more slow pattern. But I feel like you at different times might have a different speed or a different pitch level. And it just kind of depends on your mood or where you are in that moment or who you're with. Those
Oh, I
different
wasn't agreeing with
aspects
the
shine through.
saltiness, by the way. I'm
Ah!
just telling you that. So when I was in the Air Force, used to have to wear like headphones, the mic,
Mm,
and I would have to call another team to give me
sure.
information, and that's when they would be like, "Oh, you know, you
You
should
got a
talk
great voice.
time." All of this
You should
nonsense,
talk on the radio.
ridiculous things like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love that though. That's a great compliment. I think it's a
yeah,
great compliment.
it was
That's
fun.
not something that I would describe myself as, but I'm sure there have been times in life when maybe I came across as having a sultry sound. It's not something I really see myself as, but my husband will tell me that I have a sexy voice, and I'm like, do I? Okay.
You're
You
like, good,
know?
because I get paid for it.
Yeah, when we first started talking, he was away for like 6 months. And so, it was all phone conversations and text messages and like Instagram post comments and things for a while there. And so, I'm like, well, good. I guess my sexy voice hooked you, right? It worked. So I'm like, well, I'm glad you think so, right? So playing to those strengths that you have, either that you perceive or that someone else does
Mhm.
and just going, great. Like, this is something someone sees in me. Let's use that. So, when you are choosing, then, let's say you have audition listings for 70 different jobs, but you only have 2 hours to submit auditions that day. Well, then you pick and choose. You say, I'm not as good of a fit for that. I'll postpone that one. All right, this one I think I'd be a really good fit for. Let's audition for that. All right, this one and this one, eh. And so you pick and choose and you go, which ones do I want to prioritize? Which ones do I feel like I'd be more likely to get the job? Right. And then using your time more wisely. But if I have all the time in the world, like, why not audition for all of them? Stretch myself as an actor, right? So it sounds like you have a good grasp on what you feel really comfortable doing, and then also what other people have told you they hear in your voice. So you've got that clarity. But now I'd love for us to play more with the types of things you feel like people have said they don't hear in you or that you feel less comfortable doing. So, what are those things that you're like, I feel like I'm not really this at all?
Um, I would really like to get better at accents.
Okay,
I
yeah. Awesome.
I also would like. to be able to sound younger or older if I want
Mm.
to. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, I like to go through and ask like by age groups. So like a very young child, maybe like a, older child, like maybe middle school or something, and then maybe a teen or like young adult, like a teen or college age kind of a thing. And then thinking of maybe like a young professional out in the world, and then maybe more of like a middle-aged voice and then an elderly voice, trying to think of, can I create a character that fits into each of those age ranges. Um, and then I also like to challenge people sometimes. Can we try some characters that are a different gender than you? Can be a good challenge. And then, like you were saying, the accents, I like to explore accents and dialects. So, going, okay, what are some like English dialects that I could work on? And then what are like other languages that their accent shines through when they speak English, right? So, maybe I try for dialects. I'm like, I'll do New York, a Minnesota, a West Coast, maybe like a Valley girl, maybe like a Southern drawl. And then for worldwide English sounds. Maybe I could do like a Queen's English BBC style. Maybe I do like a Cockney or an Irish or a Scottish. Maybe I throw in an Australian or a New Zealand or a South African. And then I can go to other languages like, okay, what about a Spanish accent? Or what if I do an Italian or a French or a German or a Russian accent, right? So kind of stretching yourself little by little and kind of conquering different categories. So since you did mention accents first, what would be maybe the number one accent that you're like, I would love to conquer this? Like thinking accents and dialects, what would be like your number, like top 3 to 5 that you're like, I would love to do these?
Common British, I would
Okay.
say, like a
Yeah.
comfortable British accent.
Yeah. Nice.
And
So usually, if we think of like standard American dialect, that kind of thing for England, a lot of the time you'll see more of like a London or like a BBC kind of style, is what's asked for. So that's what I usually think of for that. Just kind of like a standard British type of a sound. So that would be a good one. What's maybe another that you would try?
we're talking about foreign accents or just in general?
Either. It could be any accents or dialects worldwide that you feel like you'd really love to learn.
I want to be able to do a good Southern
Okay.
American,
Yeah, absolutely.
and I do think that I'm interested in doing an Australian or a Kiwi accent, but it's
Yeah.
so hard for me. I already know that just because
Oh.
I live with a Kiwi and I cannot recreate the sounds that comes out.
Absolutely. Well, what's great about that though is you have kind of like a coach or someone to give you feedback built in, which is great. So that's kind of a fun thing. So maybe we start with that kind of like London BBC English kind of vibe. And then we also work on Southern. Maybe we start there first. And then we, table the Australian and New Zealand for now. So what I'm going to assign to you then for this week, maybe pick one TV show for each of those. So, you watch Part of Dixie to work on your Southern, and then you watch hmm, like you could watch something like The IT Crowd, if you like, modern comedy, or you could watch something that's more like a historical fiction. They have so many great like Downton Abbey and stuff, right? In England. So like you pick a show or a book or like a radio drama, something that you can be listening to. Like my student Christy was working on her Irish, and so she was watching Dairy Girls to try to really like absorb that and get it in her ear. But there's actually a website that's really great as well. I don't know if I've mentioned it to you before. It's the
Yeah, I was looking.
International Dialects of English Archive.
I remember that. I was actually listening to some interesting accents that they had posted there.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I think it's such a great resource and it's totally free. It continues to be expanded by researchers all over the world, which is so cool. So you can actually go in there and choose different regions of the world. So you can go to London, England, and be listening to voices from there. And it'll even show you, oh, this person has also lived in Sweden and in Germany and in Texas, and so you know what their background is, you know where they're from, you know how long they've lived there, and you get so many good insights. Some of them have the researcher makes notes on what they're hearing. They'll have just some question and answer time. They'll also have them read a specific script, and then you can compare like this person from this place reading that same script with this person reading that same script far away. And so that's kind of a cool thing. And then like the Southern, I would choose a particular place to try to master because, America is so big and people in Alabama speak differently than people in Georgia, speak differently than people in Florida, speak differently than people in Texas, right? So maybe be like, okay, I'm going to try to listen to like Georgia and Texas and see which one I like better. And then I'm going to pick one or the other, and then I'm going to try to conquer that one. Um, I feel like in the past, we have gravitated a bit more towards more of like the slow, low drawl, more like the Georgia kind of vibe, rather than the Texas, which is the bright, fast talking, like hard R's kind of thing. Um, that's a real big truck out there, right? Whereas like, in Georgia, it's more like, how y'all doing today? It's like slower, lower, and like the R's are softer, the D's and T's are softer. So kind of picking an area and then listen to all the voices for that area on the website. Um, I think that could be a really good place to focus. And then I think it would be really fun to pick a specific script you want to do for each of those character types. So we say, like, all right, I'm going to work on, let's say you pick Downton Abbey as your show, right? And you say, oh, I really love um, the mom's monologue right here, or I really love the youngest daughter's defiant speech she gives before running away with the chauffeur or whatever. So you pick like a certain, script that you really like, and then you try to really master that particular script, right? And same with the Southern as well. So you can just kind of like Google shows and like monologues or scripts from that, or you can also just be like, Southern monologues, what pops up, and just find something you like. And if you struggle to find something, let me know, and then I can help like send you some ideas and suggestions as well. Do you feel like you have some monologues already that showcase that like soothing or sultry or youthful quality that other people have mentioned? I know we've got sultry because we worked on that quite a bit. Um, what about soothing? What about like someone being really comforting or like caring for someone else or sympathizing with somebody or um,
Yeah,
hushing a little baby who's fussy, like something soothing. Do we have anything like that?
I don't have anything like that, but I think I could find.
Okay, yeah. So maybe try to find one this week. And then youthful. Do we have anything that has a youthful quality? I feel like we've got to have worked on some youthful scripts. But if you're like, man, we haven't in a little while, maybe try to find something. You could do
I
like
mean,
a,
it hasn't. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. We did like Daria
yeah,
from.
right. That would be a youthful character. Exactly. So I feel like we've got some of the sultry and the youthful, but maybe the soothing and then the British and the Southern, we could find some new scripts for those. Yeah. I would
Um,
also love, since you did work some on recording, if you maybe pick like your favorite recording you did in the last week and maybe just email that to me so I can take a listen. And then I can also give you some feedback on what I'm hearing in it as well.
I don't know if I will do that. It was.
Okay, that's all
It
right.
was
If you're
pretty
like,
awful. It
no,
was pretty
that's
awful.
okay.
Um. Um. But But I'll have a listen. If there was one that I
Yeah.
wasn't too terrible, maybe I'll.
Okay. Yeah. If there's one you want to share, but if not, it's okay too. Um, so what would you say this week is like your plan moving forward? What do you think?
My plan is to come up with some monologues that will help me with Southern and soothing. Maybe watch some TV shows that feature more of a Southern theme
Yeah.
or a British theme. I'll probably listen to some um, voice samples
Mm.
from the site. So basically, just kind of getting my brain around what some of the sounds are. Maybe I'll take some notes on,
On
to
what
help
you're hearing. Yeah.
with.
Oh, I would love that. Bring in your notes on what you're hearing. And then I can also maybe like give some suggestions as well. And if there's ever like an accent that I'm not great at and I have someone else who's like a really good coach that I can refer you to, I can always do that too. Um, or like I sometimes just have friends who are from different areas and I'll be like, oh, like record yourself doing this and I'll send it to my friend and then like let them send us some feedback on it too. Because they might have more insights if they're like, from London, let's say, right? So yeah, absolutely. I love that idea.
Okay.
That's
Um,
awesome. Good. And if I think of anything else, I'll just send you like a message through the week. But I think this was good. We've kind of like assessed where we're at and our goals moving forward. So I think we're in a really good place to kind of shift our focus now. I love that.
I think so too. Absolutely.
Nice. Wonderful. I'm excited to hear next week these new monologues.
Well, I'm not going to say that they'll be good, but I will have some.
That's why we're here, right? To facilitate a place to experiment and learn and grow. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. All right, I'll see you then. Wonderful seeing you, Shamara.
Yep,
Have a
good to
great rest of
see
your week, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye
you.
bye.
Take care. Bye bye.